Long before Europeans drew maps, before their ships even sighted these shores, the two vast continents we now call the Americas were already breathing with movement and design. Roads like arteries, terraces like steps to the sky, temples like stone prayers, cities like constellations on earth. Beneath the heavy canopy of lowland jungles, on high windswept plateaus, and across deserts where rain almost never falls, people carved knowledge directly into the landscape. Not only to live, but to remember. Here, pyramids rose without wheels, without iron, without draft animals. Yet each stone cut and placed with such precision that it still stands centuries later. Causeways stretched for miles, linking plazas and reservoirs. Huge figures appeared in the gravel of the desert, visible only from above, like signals cast toward the heavens. These were not random feats but deliberate acts of design. Calendars you could walk upon, processions you could join, stories built from earth and stone. Pause for a moment and imagine. Dawn in the Yucatan. Mist clings to a step pyramid. Golden light cuts through the fog. Birds call from hidden branches. The stones are cool and wet with dew. Your breath slows as you realize every block beneath your feet was dragged, cut and placed by hands long gone, yet still aligned to the sky above. Now shift to the Pacific coast of Peru at first light. A hummingbird geoglyph stretches across the desert floor for hundreds of meters. A small team of archaeologists walks its lines like ants following a forgotten signature. No rain falls here, yet the lines remain, silent, geometric, enduring. In the Andean highlands, the air thins and mountains shine white with glaciers. Terraces wrap slopes like giant staircases. Stone walls built without mortar resist earthquakes year after year. Above them, peaks considered ancestors catch the first rays of the sun. Each of these scenes opens a door, not just to a ruin but to a living story of origin, purpose, and memory carved into the land. They are invitations to listen. They ask not who built this as a riddle, but why build this here, in this way, for this sky? They draw us into a mystery older than maps, older than our names for these places, a mystery in which earth and sky were once read as one book, and people wrote their chapters in stone. Across the Americas, from the lowland jungles of the Yucatan to the high Andean plateaus, cultures rose and flourished in landscapes as different as ocean and mountain. Yet they echoed one another in the ways they built, believed, and remembered. In the humid lowlands, limestone cities rose above a sea of trees, their temples acting as observatories that mapped the movements of Venus, the sun, and eclipses. Raised roads linked plazas and reservoirs like a network of veins, carrying water and people through the green. On the Pacific coast, in a desert where rain almost never falls, the Nazca etched vast geoglyphs into the gravel. Hummingbirds, monkeys, spiders, and lines stretching beyond sight. Nearby, the Moche built great adobe pyramids painted with warriors, animals, and gods. These places were not isolated shrines but living centers where ceremony, engineering, and survival merged. High in the Andes, at altitudes where breath comes thin, the wary and later the Inca laid stone walls so tight that earthquakes still fail to break them. Terraces climbed the slopes like stairways for giants. Channels brought meltwater from glaciers to fields. From Cusco radiated hundreds of ritual lines, Sikhs, each ending at a shrine, a mountain, a spring. Walking those lines was walking a calendar. Time and space were not separate. Both were mapped underfoot. Further north, in the river valleys of what is now the United States, Earth itself became the medium. Long before Europeans arrived, mound-building cultures shaped the land into cones, platforms, and effigies of animals. At Cahokia, near today's St. Louis, a grand plaza and a central mound formed the heart of a city larger than medieval London. Timber circles stood as solar observatories. Roads radiated outward. This was a metropolis of trade, ritual, and governance. Yet no alphabetic writing survives. Its memory lies in the earthworks and in oral tradition. Trade and travel tied all these places together. Spondylus shells from the Pacific turn up in highland shrines. Obsidian from central Mexico travels hundreds of kilometers. Maize, first domesticated in southern Mexico, spreads into nearly every ecosystem, adapting to countless climates. Along with goods came stories about creator beings emerging from lakes, hero twins battling underworld lords, feathered serpents teaching agriculture, wanderers guided by visions of eagles and serpents. Each region adjusted the tale to its own needs but kept the same archetypes. a teacher from elsewhere, a cosmic struggle, a renewal. Pause and picture it, a caravan of traders crossing a mountain pass with llamas, bright textiles and shells. A Maya priest in a limestone observatory charting Venus. A mound builder watching the solstice sunrise align with a timber circle. These scenes, separated by thousands of kilometers, share a single impulse: to anchor belief in a landscape and to mirror the heavens on earth. Long before European contact, this web of myth and movement bound communities together across two continents. Across the Americas, people did not only tell their myths, they performed them. Stories of creators, twins, serpents, sun children and thunderbirds were not kept in books. They were walked, sung, danced and carved so that every generation could step into them anew. In the Maya world, codices painted on bark paper show Itzamna, an elder creator, teaching writing, time and healing. Beside him, Nine-Shell pours water from her jar, sometimes a young goddess of weaving and childbirth, sometimes an aged crone bringing floods. Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, glides down the staircase at Chichen Itza during equinox, a shadow that is both theater and calendar. Each image, each alignment, is a line in a living script. In the high Andes, Viracocha rises from Lake Titicaca and sends culture bearers across the world. Inti, the sun, warms terraces. Pachamama, Earth Mother, receives libations before the first seed is planted. Alapa cracks his sling and thunder rolls across the peaks. Mountains are not scenery but ancestors. Lakes and caves are not empty spaces but doorways to beginnings. Farther north, Thunderbird spreads its wings in the sky. Trickster figures, raven, coyote, spider, cross boundaries bringing fire, seeds or stories, sometimes through mischief, sometimes through sacrifice. In each telling the boundary between human and non-human blurs, the lesson is that everything is alive and related. Temples, plazas, and ball courts were stages for these cosmic dramas. The hero twins' descent into Xibalba, their trials and resurrection as sun and moon, was mirrored in ritual ball games. Spectators were not just watching a sport but a rehearsal of cosmic order. Manco Capac and Mama Oclo's journey from sacred waters to found Cusco was retraced in processions that stitched myth into geography. Even mound shapes embodied stories. Birds, serpents, bears aligned to solstices and river bends. Heroes here succeed not by brute force but by timing, humility, and transformation. The twins use wit to outsmart death. Founders test the ground until it accepts their staff. Wanderers travel until a vision tells them to stop. These are lessons in balance rather than conquest, in reading signs rather than imposing will. Pause and imagine, a ball court at dusk, torches flickering, players in feathered gear moving like shadows, a crowd chanting, or a highland procession winding up a mountain path carrying effigies of sun and moon, or a storyteller in a northern lodge weaving tales of Thunderbird while lightning flashes outside. These scenes show how myth and daily life were one continuous performance, turning knowledge into memory and memory into stone. Look closely at the carvings, the murals, and the textiles, and you begin to see not just decoration but a language. Jaguars and pumas, condors and eagles, feathered serpents and double-headed snakes, maize plants, obsidian mirrors, spirals and stepped patterns, colors mapped to directions, numbers encoding layers of heaven and underworld. Together they form an alphabet of the sacred, a way to record knowledge without alphabetic writing. In Mesoamerica, the jaguar prowls across thrown backs, temple masks and painted pottery. It is the predator of the jungle, a bridge between day and night, between human and divine. In the Andes, the puma fills a similar role. Cusco itself was said to be shaped like a puma, its head the fortress of Sacsayhuaman, its tail the temple district. Above them soars the condor, messenger of the upper realm, while in the lowlands eagles perform this role. These animals are not mascots. They are metaphors embodied. Serpents coil through this symbolic language. In humid jungles they shed their skins and seem reborn, a natural metaphor for transformation. In the Andes, the Amaru with two heads links underworld and heavens. In Mesoamerica, the feathered serpent merges snake and bird, earth and sky, knowledge and movement. Carved serpents on staircases and lintels mark thresholds, entrances to sacred space. To step across them was to cross into a different state of being. Plants also speak. Maize is not just food but the substance of humanity itself in the Popol Vuh. Its growth cycle mirrors human life. Seed, burial, sprouting, maturity, harvest. Maize gods appear as youthful figures with sprouting headdresses. In the Andes, coca leaves still carry ceremonial meaning. Cacao beans and tobacco served as offerings linking humans to spirits. A simple act, pouring out the first drink for Pachamama, was a dialogue with the earth. Objects of daily use carried cosmic weight. Obsidian, volcanic glass, was a cutting tool but also a mirror into other realms. Tezcatlipoca's smoking mirror, through which he saw destinies. Jade, rare and green like water, symbolized life force and eternity. Gold in the Andes was the sweat of the sun, silver the tears of the moon. Textiles were portable cosmologies. Patterns of steps and crosses mapped cardinal directions, mountains and rivers. Numbers and colors completed the code. The Maya built their calendar on cycles of 13 and 20, producing the 260-day sacred count still used in some communities. 13 layers of heaven, 9 layers of underworld. Staircases with 91 steps times 4 sides plus the platform equaling 365 days. In the Andes, Sikh lines radiated from Cusco like sunbeams to 328 shrines, a living calendar and geography of ritual. Colors marked direction, red for east, black for west, white for north, yellow for south. Priests painted temples and wore headdresses not for aesthetics but to align space with cosmic order. This code still lives. Hurricane is Huracan, a Mayan storm god. Inti Raymi festival in Cusco reenacts sun rituals. Dia de los Muertos fuses pre-Hispanic ancestor veneration with Catholic All Saints. Pachamama becomes a banner for environmental movements. The feathered serpent flies again as a superhero motif. The Thunderbird adorns sports teams and trucks. Far from fading, the old vocabulary adapts to new media, carrying ethics of reciprocity and balance into the present. Pause and imagine, a festival in Cusco where hundreds of dancers form a sun pattern on the plaza, fortress walls behind them. A family in Mexico building a Day of the Dead altar glowing with marigolds and candles. A conservation march carrying banners of condors and jaguars as symbols of living earth. A child learning the word hurricane in school without knowing it once named a storm god. These echoes show that the stones and stories of the Americas are not only past but present. A living language still spoken through ritual, art, and everyday words. Modern research now allows us to see what oral tradition preserved for centuries. From the air, LiDAR strips away the jungle canopy and reveals not isolated ruins but networks of roads, reservoirs and plazas connecting entire Maya cities. Ground-penetrating radar detects anomalies beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent at Teotihuacan, hidden chambers once thought to be legend. In North America, the alignments of earthworks like the Newark Octagon match the long lunar cycle of 18.6 years. High in the Andes, archaeoastronomers model solstice sunrises through temple windows built centuries before European contact. These findings don't erase myth. They show its depth. Science reframes myth not as naive storytelling but as a multidimensional dataset. A legend about a great flood may compress memories of rising seas or catastrophic storms. A story of beings teaching agriculture may capture generations of experimentation with maize, beans, and potatoes. Tales of walking stones sound impossible until teams demonstrate how rhythmic chanting and coordinated effort can move megaliths across slopes. Sacred calendars and directions embedded in architecture become, under analysis, practical tools for farming, navigation, and social cohesion. Yet some knowledge remains beyond instruments. Ritual meanings, inner experiences, oral nuances survive only in the voices of descendant communities. An archaeologist may map a temple's orientation, but only an elder knows the song sung there. A LiDAR scan can reveal a hidden city, but not the prayers whispered on its staircases. Collaborative research, scientists working with indigenous knowledge holders, produces richer interpretations. A petroglyph might align to a solstice and to a migration path remembered in story. A mound may encode lunar cycles and clan histories at once. Legend and evidence fit together like two halves of a broken tablet. Pause and picture it. A scientist in a jungle clearing comparing star charts while local guides recount myths of sky beings. An Andean farmer planting potatoes on terraces first built 1,000 years ago, still pouring out the first drink to Pachamama. A child in a city far away playing a video game set in a stylized pyramid, unknowingly moving through a digital echo of real architecture. Myth and science converging, old and new dancing. These ancient stones are not only puzzles from the past, they are prompts for the future. They ask what stories and structures we will leave behind. Will we build monuments that respect the cycles of earth and sky? Will our symbols teach cooperation, resilience, and balance? The builders of the Americas fused measurement and myth, engineering and ritual, earth and cosmos. Their work still stands because it was more than construction, it was meaning made solid. In listening to their whisper, we hear guidance for our own age. Knowledge lives longest when it is woven into story, when it binds community, when it honors the world that sustains it. The mysteries of the Americas are not closed. They are invitations. Each stone, each symbol, each festival still says to us, look closer, walk slower, remember deeper. What you build today may become someone's legend tomorrow.